The bus stopped in front of a small wooden sign. It read, "Welcome to Evershade." Daniel looked out the window. The town was quiet, too quiet. He stepped off the bus with his backpack, but the driver didn't say anything. Instead, he pointed to a piece of paper taped near the door. It said, "End of the line, no voice in Evershade." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Weird," he whispered. The bus drove away. Dust filled the air. The street was empty. Houses stood still, their windows dark. Trees swayed gently, but no birds sang. He walked toward a small shop. A man stood behind the counter, arranging jars. "Hi," Daniel said. "Is there a hotel nearby?" The man didn't answer. He pulled out a small notepad and wrote something. Then he handed the note to Daniel. "No voice here. Only quiet. Thank you." Daniel blinked. He smiled awkwardly. "Okay. Strange tradition," he muttered. The man simply nodded. Outside, an old woman sat on a bench, knitting. Daniel approached her. "Excuse me, ma'am. Do you know where I can find a place to stay?" The woman looked at him for a long second. Then she reached into her bag and handed him a folded paper. "Room 3, Quiet Pines Inn. Key is under the mat." No one talked. No one even coughed. Daniel found the inn, a small wooden house with white curtains and a wooden porch. A sign read, "Quiet Pines Inn, welcome silently." He lifted the mat. There was a small key. Inside, a note waited on the table. "Please write if you need anything." No sound after dark. The silence pressed on his ears like heavy fog. He sat on the bed and looked around. Everything was neat and simple. The only sound was the ticking of a small clock on the wall. He looked at his phone. No signal. Daniel chuckled nervously. "Okay, Evershade, let's see what your secret is." He didn't know it yet, but the silence wasn't just a tradition here. It was a warning. The next morning, Daniel walked through Evershade. The air was cold. The sky was gray. He passed by people on the street. They smiled, nodded, but never spoke. He entered a small cafe. Soft music played from a radio behind the counter. A young woman stood ready to take his order. Daniel said, "Good morning," but she didn't reply. Instead, she slid a menu toward him. The menu had no words, only pictures. Underneath was a card. "Point to your choice. We do not speak." Daniel pointed to coffee and a muffin. The woman smiled, nodded, and brought them to his table. When he finished eating, she gave him another note. "Thank you for staying quiet. Silence keeps us safe." He left a tip, then walked toward the center of town. There were signs everywhere. "Stay silent. Speak equals danger. Quiet is life." In the park, children played without making a sound. One little girl kicked a ball and laughed, but not out loud. Daniel sat on a bench and watched. Suddenly, the girl walked over to him. She looked around, then leaned close and whispered, "Why do you talk?" Before he could answer, her mother ran over and pulled her away. She handed Daniel a small note. "No whispers. Please." Daniel felt a chill in his chest. This was more than a local custom. This silence felt like fear. Back at the inn, Daniel found something under his door. A note. It wasn't typed. It wasn't from the innkeeper. It read, "Don't break the silence. They are always listening." He turned the paper over. Nothing else. Who had written it? What did they mean? Daniel sat on the bed and looked at his reflection in the mirror. "What is this place?" he whispered. Outside, a wind passed quickly through the trees. The next day, Daniel walked to the edge of town. He needed answers. A dirt road led to the highway. He hoped to catch a car, maybe leave Evershade for good. He waited for a long time. No cars came, only silence. Daniel took a deep breath and shouted, "Hello? Anyone there? Help!" His voice echoed through the trees. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the wind changed. The trees stopped moving. The birds vanished. Everything became still. He felt it before he saw it. A coldness, like fingers brushing the back of his neck. He turned. No one was there. Daniel ran back into town. People saw him coming. They shut their windows. They locked their doors. One woman dropped her groceries and ran. He stopped at the inn. A note was stuck to the front door. "You called them." He went inside, heart racing. The lights flickered once. In his room, another note waited. "Now they know you. You must be silent." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The shadows in the room felt alive. He heard something, a whisper, a breath. He pulled the blanket over his head and stayed still. In the morning, he found scratch marks on the window. He didn't remember opening it. Daniel needed to know the truth. He walked to the old library near the church. The door was locked, but a window in the back was broken. He climbed in. Dust covered everything. Books were left open on tables, as if people had run and never returned. He found a folder labeled History of Evershade. Inside were handwritten notes. The shadows came after the scream. Noise gives them shape. They live in the sound. Another note. We made rules. We stayed silent. Some forgot. Now they are gone. Daniel looked through more papers. Some pages were ripped. Some were stained red. Then he heard something behind him. He froze. A faint, wet breathing sound moved across the room. He didn't speak. He didn't move. The sound stopped. He slowly backed away and left the library through the window. Outside, he saw a shadow pass across the church wall, but there was no one there. Daniel now understood. The silence was not a choice. It was survival. Daniel packed his things. He had to leave. He found a truck parked near the gas station. The keys were inside. He got in and started the engine. The noise felt too loud. The moment the engine roared, clouds gathered above. The sky darkened. He drove fast towards a highway, but the road twisted and turned and led him back to Evershade. He tried again. Same thing. The town would not let him go. Daniel stopped in the middle of the street. People watched from their windows. No one helped. No one spoke. He stepped out of the truck. Something moved behind him. A cold wind whispered. He didn't turn around. He held his breath. The sound stopped. He dropped to his knees. "I'm sorry," he whispered. That night, he didn't sleep. In the morning, he stood by the inn, handing a paper to a man who had just arrived by bus. The man looked confused. The note read, "No voice here. Only quiet." "Thank you," Daniel smiled, but his eyes were empty. Did you enjoy this story? Let us know in the comments so we can continue. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more. Learn English through story, improve your vocabulary, and immerse yourself in thrilling narratives. See you in the next episode.